All right. All right. Thank you for joining us, Gear Up and Parents. My name is Daryl Curry, and I am joined by my wonderful coworker, Lee Gray, today, and the future OCC team member, Nico Gray, right there. He's got about 20 years, but he'll be on the team soon. We're already, we're planting the seed. We're planting the seed. Get it going early. I'm ready. So today we're going to be focusing on types of colleges. What I am going to drop in the chat to make sure I do not forget now is go ahead and give you a document that has the different types, different examples of those schools, and some different folks that have graduated from those schools. This is something that you can share with your young person. This can serve as a point of reference for you. I am one of those people who probably needs to be stopped at some point to be asked some type of question. So if you have any that come up at any point in time, please feel free to just come off mute and stop me. But with that said, I'm going to jump right into the presentation after I share my screen. I am going to double check just because I don't want to start talking and then find out later. Can y'all see my screen?
Yep, looks great, Daryl.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So again, my name is Daryl Curry. I work for Oasis College Connection. We are a college access team right here in Nashville that operates out of about 10 different schools here in MNPS. A lot of them are Gear Up schools. I want to say we operate within 4 different Gear Up schools and support at 2 of the other Gear Up schools. So with that said, with your young people, we will probably interact with them at some point. We will probably support them in some way or another at some point, whether it's a Gear Up workshop, whether it is having that kind of individualized one-on-one conversation about what they want to do, where they want to go, or maybe, some point during their senior year, we help them out with a FAFSA. Our goal is to build that relationship to really get to know the student, just like it is for Gear Up, and make sure that whatever it is they want to do, we provide them with all the resources, all the supports, all the guidance to really kind of get them there. We know it's not just going to be us doing that. We know it's going to be counselors with community partners like ourselves with Gear Up. So we have all come together to make sure that we have supported the students from this Gear Up class as much as we can. Lee, before I jump to the next slide, do you want to add anything on that one?
Sorry, there's just a little noise going on here. No, Daryl, that was a great introduction. I'll just reiterate: questions, questions, questions. We've done our best to guess what information might be important, but really the information that's most important is exactly what all of you want to know. So if we're not touching on something, if you want to know something, or if you've got a question about something, don't hesitate, jump in. It's important that we give you exactly what you're looking for. And at the end of this presentation, if there's any feedback, if there's things you'd like to see for our next presentation, please let us know, and we can specialize this and individualize this to all of you who are here and participating and doing all the good work already. So this is going to college, folks. You and your families that are here are already taking the right steps to prepare yourself for going to college. Folks that aren't here, they're missing out on some key information. And so you're going to walk away already, being a leg up and thinking about your future and thinking about how the process can work out best for you. So congratulations for being here. Thank you for being here. And take it away, Daryl.
Yep, can do. All right. So, like I said, we are focused on really supporting your student and helping them get to where they want to go. And that entire conversation has to start with the student themselves. A reason why we are so one-on-one focused, the reason that we want to go ahead and start building that relationship now while they're in 9th and 10th grade is because right now they're figuring out what they like, they're figuring out what they're interested in, and that's just going to grow or change over the time that they know. But we really have to focus exactly in on the things that they want so that we can figure out what are the things that they need, so that when we get to that junior and senior year and we're starting to highlight some of those schools that we know the students want to go to, or they may be doing some of that now, we can make sure that they're really honing in on, I know I like this type of school, I know I need this from a certain school, I know I want to eventually do this, and this school is going to provide me with the supports. I personally, I graduated from Sewanee University of the South here in Tennessee, and I know for a fact that that school is not built for everybody. There are certain doors that are open at other schools that are not open at Sewanee, and there's a lot of doors that were open to me at Sewanee that weren't open for folks at other schools. Deciding what school that you're going to go to is going to be kind of pivotal and kind of all the steps to get in that career that you want. It's going to be pivotal to making sure that you get all the supports along the way. And the more research that you can kind of do earlier on, the more likely you are to end up in an experience that the student will enjoy. With that said, we are going to talk through all the different options, and that's kind of my job, right? I'm supposed to provide the information and try to figure out exactly what a student wants, what a particular family wants, so that we can kind of navigate that conversation. So again, I'll stress, if you have any questions as we kind of navigate through this presentation, feel free to ask. And I will throw my email at the end of this presentation in the chat so that you can also email me if anything comes up as well. All right, let's jump into the different types of colleges. And first thing that I will say is a lot of folks think that because I say college, I'm only referring to four-year institutions. That is not true, as you will see in this slide. We are really focused in on, hey, what does the student want to do? If you want to go into the workforce pretty soon, if you think that traditional school is not for you, I'm not going to be the guy that's here to say, hey, you need to go to a four-year institution and go get that bachelor's degree in order to do whatever it is you want to do next. There are a lot of different avenues that you can go to get to where you want to be. What I would like to do is provide you the way that's going to get you that piece of paper that is going to allow you to go ahead and start doing that. Whether that is a bachelor's degree, whether that is an associate's degree, whether that is a license, whether that is a certificate. So I'm going to walk through all the types of kind of educational institutions that will kind of allow you to do that. And if I miss anything, feel free to tell me at any point, and I'll make sure I kind of throw that in the next presentation. But going along those lines, let's start with your kind of non-traditional, your trade and vocational schools. Again, I'm not just focused on the academic. If you want to go in a trade, if you have a young person who knows they are great kind of learning with their hands, they don't do well in that traditional academic space, or they know they just want to go into something kind of pertaining to cars, or maybe pretending to construction or something along those lines, HVAC, nursing, there are opportunities to go to places like a TCAT, Tennessee College of Applied Technology, and go ahead and pursue some of that. A lot of these careers, and I have on here esthetician, automotive technology, dental assistant, welding, practical nursing. There's a lot more on their website, and they kind of differ based on the different spots throughout the state. If you were to try to go start at those programs, you would be out in under 2 years, and you would be ready to either go ahead and get started on an apprenticeship or start at a job so that you can, as a young person, come out and start making money. And, you know, depending on the career, you're looking at potentially making $35,000 to $60,000, and that's only going to kind of increase with experience and time. So for our young people that kind of say, hey, I don't want to go to college per se, but I know I have to do something. I know I have to pick up a skill. I know I have to earn. This is a great option for them to kind of be thrown in there. With that said, Tennessee College of Applied Technologies are not the only schools that are considered trade or vocational schools. We'll focus kind of on that a little bit more coming later in the presentations. There are some other schools out there that are for-profits that also are trade or vocational schools, just like there are also for-profits that are public institutions and private institutions. I'll start it here, but I'm gonna kind of add on to it later. Stay away from for-profits. With that said, if a school is a nonprofit, and if a school, at least price range wise, is close to TCAT and they can offer you some of those same things, it may be a good option, but I always recommend doing your research, talking to a counselor, talking to one of us, and making sure that, you know, everything's on the up and up. All right. Next up on my types of colleges, I have a community college. Community colleges are very, very popular at the current moment, especially in the state of Tennessee. You may, at some point, if you've not heard it already, hear the term that, you know, any student in the state of Tennessee can go to college 2 years free. And for that very reason, or maybe not that very reason, but it's definitely part of it, a lot of students, I want to say that Nashville State is probably the most popularly attended college that students go to here in Metro. So there's a lot of information that you'll need kind of on what to expect from the school, what that looks like. And so I'll start at community college is a space that is designed for exactly the area that you live to gain any type of education or expertise that you need. For a lot of our students, it is a stepping stone if they want to go to kind of your traditional four-year school. A lot of our students will start at a community college and then transfer somewhere else after those 2 years are over. And especially when our students, if we have any that may fall behind a little bit, that may need to catch up on a few credits, community college is the best place to kind of recover any of those credits because they offer classes that will allow you to catch up to a certain level so that you can keep going. It may add time, it may force somebody to graduate from there in 3 years instead of the 2 because they're taking classes that are designed solely for the purpose of catching them up. But it puts you in a situation where you can transfer if you weren't already in that position to start at a given 4-year. But with me saying that, you don't necessarily have to transfer if that's not the goal. They still provide different majors and opportunities for you to earn a certain certificate or license, or just an associate's degree where you can start working immediately after graduating from the community college. Here in the state of Tennessee, we have what's called the Tennessee Transfer Pathways. And what that does is allow you to take all the kind of credits that you earn in that program and take it with you to any 4-year in the state. Some people pause for a second and ask me, hey, you can't just do that everywhere. No, unfortunately, you cannot. If you try to take all your credits from here to New York University, you may get some classes that carry over with you. You may get all of your classes that carry over, but it's not guaranteed per se. But here in the state of Tennessee, if you take the classes that are assigned to that Tennessee Transfer Pathway, then they will carry over, and that's kind of a agreement that the schools have kind of come to within the state to allow you to kind of do that. No matter what, once a student obtains that associate's degree, they will have the option to transfer and take that with them to a 4-year college. So if you have a student, sorry, before I skip over this last part, the benefits of community colleges, they are probably going to be one of the price tag wise, sticker price, one of the cheapest options that you can kind of take advantage of when you're looking at schools. And that is kind of the allure. In addition to that, with Tennessee Promise, if it is the best fit for you, or Pell Grants for any of our students that can get it, it's going to be a school where you don't have to worry about tuition in most cases. That is not applicable to everybody. If you are undocumented, that will not be the best option for you. But for a lot of our students and for a lot of our families, that is the cheapest option and the most affordable, looking at it from the start without a financial aid award package. I'm being very specific about that, but I will explain more here in a second. Next up, I have my 4-year public schools. So this is usually what folks think of when we start to talk about college. This is when you get your bachelor's degree or your master's or your doctorate degrees. Coming out of high school, you will have to start with bachelor's if you're going to that 4-year public, but it's going to be just the 4 years. Usually your public institutions are getting funded by the state and government. And for that reason, the cost is higher than community college, but it's going to be lower than the next set of schools that I'm going to talk about in a minute, which are private schools. With that said, the four-year public schools are usually rather large. Student body usually consists of anywhere from 15,000 folks to maybe even 25,000 students in some cases. Um, it is There's potential to get lost in the shuffle sometimes, but with them being huge institutions, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to major in a variety of different things. There's usually some sports opportunities for any students that are very interested in that, and they're usually right in the middle of some type of hub. And when I say that, we have TSU here in Nashville, you have UTC in Chattanooga, you have MTSU in Murfreesboro. These are all places where they're going to find a lot of students in the same spot as them. They're not going to be too far from a lot of things. They usually have pretty good access to everything they need. And after that, you have your four-year private. And these, we usually kind of see a Fisk University, a Trevecca, a Vanderbilt. They are going to be relatively smaller, a lot smaller than your public institutions usually. They usually don't have as many offerings in terms of majors, but they are just as good for all means. Tuition rates are usually kind of the scary parts, kind of looking at these schools, or at least from a sticker price perspective that I was mentioning earlier. If you are looking at a TSU, which was our four-year public earlier, you're looking at a tuition price of about $10,000. If you're looking at four-year private, you're looking at a tuition price of maybe, for a Vanderbilt, I'll use as my example, which is probably the extremist example, so I apologize. You're looking at about $60,000. For that community college that I was talking about before, you're looking at a cost of probably about $4,000. The difference is, if you're trying to get that bachelor's degree, um, you can't really only consider the community college because you know you'll have to transfer later. But with the public and with the private institutions, public institutions tend to give a little bit less aid, and it's very strictly laid out for folks by a certain GPA scale and a certain ACT score. Private, they still take that into consideration, but they have an understanding that families who are not making a ton aren't going to be able to afford to pay for a school that is costing $60,000 in the case of Vanderbilt. And in most cases, if we have families that make under $50,000 for a year, Vanderbilt is a school that is almost completely free for a given family. So that's something to take into consideration. These private schools have the opportunity to give a lot of scholarship money to our students and often make a point to do so. So that sticker price, even though scary, that's more so the worth of the education, more so than it is the price. And I'll say that with public institutions as well. It's usually not necessarily what they're going to pay. It's just the sticker price. There's scholarships involved. There's grants involved. None of that is necessarily guaranteed, but there's opportunities, and you want to kind of cast a wide net and see what comes back before you kind of rule out a given school based on price. Um, I know I threw out numbers like it was candy. I've said 60,000, I said 10,000, I said 4,000. I know that education is going to be expensive, but just understand this is not meant to scare you. There are a lot of different pockets of money here in the state of Tennessee that will help you be able to afford paying for these institutions, and even nationally help you afford to go different places. A lot of these schools, especially the private schools, will allow you to go out of state because they're offering so much in scholarship money. And that is going to be the topic of at least the very next presentation that we do. So if you have any questions about that, I am more than happy to answer it right after this presentation, but I'm also going to answer a lot of those questions in the next presentation, or at least somebody from my team will.
Daryl, if you can go back to that slide really quick before we move
Gotcha.
on. I think, folks, where you're at now, I would not even look at prices. You want to look at all the other things that schools have to offer you, things that excite you, things you're interested in. Um, the money conversation will come way later in the process. And the best way to make sure to minimize the impact that the cost of your dream school will have on your ability to attend or not is to take care of business in the classroom now. Get in there, do everything you can do. I'm not telling you you need to get a 4.0. I'm not telling you you need to be, freshman, sophomore, junior, and then senior class president. I'm not telling you you have to do all of those things. I'm telling you to challenge yourself. I'm telling you to try different things, and I'm telling you to do your best. That stuff reflects in your applications, and you'd be surprised by how many of the country's best schools aren't looking for perfect students. They're
Mhm.
looking for students who have been on a journey. They're looking for students who value education. And valuing education doesn't mean all A's. Valuing education means that it's become an important part of your life and that you're taking full advantage of what's offered to you, right? So we're going to talk money at some point. Don't worry about the money now. Go on a fact finding mission, go dream. If you have the opportunity, I know that at some point we'll get back to um, a world where we can do things together and be safe. So when that time comes and you have opportunities to go and visit different schools, do it. If you've got family in Alabama, if you've got family in Huntsville and you're going down there for Thanksgiving, see if somebody will drive you, to the University of Alabama at Huntsville and go walk around. Like just take every advantage you can um, to help kind of focus the dreaming, right? Uh, so yeah. Anyway, I'm just rambling, but for real, don't worry about the money now. Take care of business, have some fun, and enjoy doing what you're doing in school now, and that'll show later on. You'll be able to
Yeah.
cash that in for a lot of money somewhere.
Yeah, piggybacking off of Lee, um, what I usually try to advise students as we're kind of going through this process and as I work with my seniors is go ahead and figure out what schools you're interested in. Go ahead and apply to those schools. You may be applying to, 5, 7 different schools. You may be applying to 2 different schools. Um, when you apply, that doesn't lock you in to pay for the school. You still have to go through a lot of steps to say, hey, I'm going here. This is a school for me and I'm making this decision because it's going to be best for me personally, academically, and financially. Um, when they accept you, eventually they send that scholarship offer, and you can kind of pick based on what that remaining cost is and fit which one you're going to go to, and then you make that decision for you. So really do a great job of doing your research, pursuing the opportunities that are in front of you and that you want to pursue, to be honest with you, and then you'll be in a position, a couple years from now to go ahead and say, hey, my application's in, I've got scholarships to go here, I may have to pay this or I may not have to pay this, and because of that I'm deciding to go to the school because it's the best thing for me, it's the best thing for my family, and it's the best thing for what I want to go off and do later on. With that said, something that you need to make sure you avoid are the for profits that I kind of mentioned earlier. And the reason that I always make a point to kind of throw this slide in a presentation is there are a lot of schools that will try to rush you along in the process of deciding, and they're usually the for-profits. Sometimes they can be pushy. Sometimes they can say, hey, can I get you to sign on the dotted line now? Sometimes they do not. But the thing about for-profits is there is often some misinformation somewhere along the way. They are not always sharing with students when their programs are not accredited. And accreditation is super important for you to be able to do the things that you need to do next. Um, when a school is not accredited, your college degree is not technically a college degree. It's not that bachelor's degree that's going to earn you the money that you want it to earn you later on. And some of these schools will be accredited or have certain accredited programs, but the flip side is they're charging way, 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 way more for their degrees than they should, and they don't tend to give out that aid consistently, and they usually try to scheme around things to try to get students to take out money at times when they don't need to be taking out that amount, or they're taking things out to cover one semester and there's no more money left over for them to continue into the second semester. I've had a lot, I won't say a lot of students, but I've always seen a case every year that I've been in this position, and I've been in this position for 5 years, where I've seen a student end up in a situation where they went to Lincoln Tech maybe, or they went to Strayer University against my advice, and now they can't continue into that second semester because they have to pay off $14,000 before they can go back. You don't want your student to be in that position, and to best avoid that, you want to keep kind of the for-profits out of the conversation from the very beginning. With that said, I have kind of my example on the screen. For any students that are interested in Lincoln Tech, interested in working with cars, you can definitely go there and get a degree and be able to become a mechanic afterwards if you're willing to pay that $26,500 a year. At the same time, you could also go get that very same degree from TCAT and be out in 5,000 with just 5,000. And with that said, TCAT has a history of doing very well by our students. TCAT has a history of working with our students and making sure that they're able to do things with that. And the Wilder Nathy Award will make it so that that full 5,000 cost won't really be the cost of the school, and that's eligible for any students here in Nashville and in the state of Tennessee. And on top of that, if you receive a Pell Grant, that is pretty much a free degree. That's not going to be the case with Lincoln Tech. So just make sure you're doing research. It's going to be on the websites. It's going to be on their Wikipedia. If the school is for profit, you want to kind of push them away from your pile of schools that you're considering. With that said, there was a clip from The Daily Show where they were talking about for-profits and just kind of how they can scheme around things sometimes. If you would like to see that, I'll throw that in the chat for a little bit later. I won't make that a part of the presentation today. A lot of things go into really deciding what school you're going to go to, what schools you're looking at, what schools you're going to apply to. With that, you have to make sure you are considering all the things that are going to be important to a given student. With that said, size is going to be a huge one. If you don't want your student going to a school with 20,000 other students, maybe you want to focus on a school that is more so 2,000 to 5,000 because you feel like they're going to get a little bit more attention. You feel like class sizes are going to be smaller. You feel like it's going to be easier for them to navigate. That is something that could play a huge role in deciding what type of school is for you. There are about 4,000, maybe a little bit over, different types of colleges across the country. And there's a lot of different things for you to choose from. Every school is going to be different. I want to say no two are alike. You may somehow prove me wrong, but there's a lot of variation out there where you can go and decide which one is best for you. Location, we have a lot of students here that want to stay in the state of Tennessee. We have a lot of students that want to get far, far away from the state of Tennessee. We have a lot of families that are completely supportive of that idea. We have a lot of families that are not completely supportive of that idea. Now is the time to go ahead and start having that conversation of, am I okay with my student going off somewhere? Am I not? Does that student want to go off somewhere? Do they not? What am I really worried about here? Or am I really being as supportive as I need to be? And deciding exactly where those boundaries and where that comfort zone is based on your family and your situation. After that, what does the student want to do? What do they want to focus on? What do they want to major in? The different majors are not all consistent across every single college and university. They're going to have opportunities to do things at certain places that they won't have at other places. They are going to have different classes offered with that, even that same major at one school in comparison to another school. So it's a good idea to kind of make sure you go to a school and make sure that they have your major. You don't want to go to a school and find out they don't have your major or any type of study in the field that you want to go into, because then in terms of careers afterwards, in terms of going to where you want to go, you may find yourself in a place where the student feels kind of stuck and like they can't pursue the opportunities that they want. Or they might find a way, find alumni that have found a way to make it work, but that kind of decision is going to be up to you, your family, and your student. If diversity is really, really important to you, that's something to also consider. You can find all this information on a variety of websites that I'm going to share on the next slide. But if you know you want your student to go to a HBCU, that's something that you can definitely look at. If you want your student to go to a school that is at least 30% Asian American, that's something that you can find out just by doing a Google search. So I really encourage you to kind of take a look at some of those things and let that factor into your decision. If you are somebody who is interested in band, understand there's not going to be bands at every school across the country. In fact, it is really not the most common thing, especially at some of your smaller schools. So if that's something that you want, you need to make sure that you kind of do some research to find out. And that's going to be the truth for really anything that you're interested in. It could be intramurals, it could be sports, it could be glee club, whatever it is, whatever you want to do. There's going to be a lot of opportunities offered on different campuses, but they're not always the same opportunities. And at the same time, a lot of schools have taken the model to where they will let you start a given club or group based on something that you're interested in if you can get a certain amount of folks interested and signed up for it. And so you may have that opportunity to start something on your own. It's not the end of the world if they don't have it. But for some of our folks who may not want to, they can jump into whatever it is they want. Jobs and internships. A lot of schools kind of have career services pages where there's an entire department kind of geared towards connecting you to a specific profession and getting you going in a certain direction. And then there's some schools that do not. All that information can kind of be found on the website, and you can even reach out and even include them in the tour and sometimes in some of the college visits you do. So that's something to put some thought to as well. Housing options, living on campus, living off campus, whatever that might look like. If you know that you want to live in a specific dorm, or if you have no idea what dorm life could potentially be like, now's the time to go ahead and take some of those tours to really see what all of this looks like. Campus social life, having to feel that, hey, I will be actually able to get involved on campus, or maybe there's options to do some things a little bit off campus, is a great thing to kind of look into prior. And of course, the thing that's kind of been reoccurring in this conversation, price is going to play a factor into it at some point. I'll again repeat the idea that Lee shared earlier of don't let that even play a role in it right now. Cast that wide net. Make sure you're picking out the schools that interest you the most. But understand that is going to be something to factor in later on. In addition to that, some schools are better than others in really providing supports for different types of students. Including ESL services for our non-English speakers or folks who are just now kind of picking it up as a second language. Any type of tutoring services. I learned kind of in college, I expected there to be like a TA for every single topic for every single class, and I found out that was not the case. There are more supports in some schools and there are less at others. Mentoring opportunities, disability services, counseling, really everything that a student will need to be successful on campus. Sometimes there are a ton of resources, sometimes there are not a ton of resources, and it's good to kind of look into some of that prior.
Daryl, if I can jump in before you switch. Also, this isn't scientific. So this list that we've generated may have things that are the most important to you. They may have things you haven't thought about that now you're like, maybe that's important to you. But sometimes choosing the right fit is 100% about feel. Walking on campus, feeling comfortable, seeing a tree in the quad where you can like imagine yourself studying and hanging out with people. Sometimes it's a mix of some of these really important things that we've got listed and just the way you feel on campus. And so if you're not seeing, if you've got a good feeling and you're not sure about anything else, or you're missing, maybe the internships and job opportunities aren't as great as you thought they'd be, but you feel good when you're on campus, don't like write that school off because it doesn't have as many jobs and internship opportunities as you think you'd like. Because I'll tell you one thing, going and completing and finishing school is all about wanting to be there. It's all about wanting to be there. You have to be willing to get up and go to class when you've got an 8 a.m. class and it's cold outside. You've got to be willing to get up and go back to your psych class knowing that you didn't do well on the exam yesterday and you're going to hear about it. Like, you have to look for a place. When I tell students, really what you're looking for is on your worst day, where are you still going to be happy? Where are you going to be comfortable? Where are you going to be supported? Right? So, it's a little bit of science with all these different things we put on the list. And it's a lot about how you feel and what makes you happy and where can you see yourself being supported and successful.
Yeah. This is just a list of some of the resources that I mentioned before. These are usually kind of great sources of either information or ways to kind of go ahead and reach out to some schools. So I'll start with Big Future College Board. That is a great option for really diving into, hey, what does this school have? What does this school not have? The following link is niche.com. That is usually a great way to kind of compare schools and see exactly, where does this school rank in terms of a specific major in comparison to this school? Where does this school rank on kind of a safety list in comparison to this school? They provide a grade on a bunch of different categories for different schools. And, it's not going to be a kind of catch-all. They're not going to be right about everything, but it does give you some information and give you kind of some context around certain things about different schools. College Greenlight provides a lot of kind of the same information, I'll say, especially that Big Future College Board does, but what College Greenlight also kind of gives a little bit of insight into is some of the kind of fly-in programs. And that's something I'd love to share with you is a school, if you're interested and you are a sophomore or you are a junior or even freshman sometimes, they will completely pay for your plane ticket sometimes to come visit a school and go ahead and roll out the red carpet for you. They'll let you stay in a dorm. They might put you in a hotel. They might let you go ahead and eat in the cafeteria. They might give you some other food, but it's all with the goal of showing you what their campus is really like and exposing you to that early. So if you have the opportunity to sign up for one of those programs, you've got to go on the website, you've got to create an account. But once you have that, you're good to go ahead and really get a feel for what it is you think of the school. After that, Google has done a lot in terms of ramping things up and allowing you to see all the data and information that you want to about a school. And I highly encourage you to go ahead and do a quick Google search on different schools. You can make it to the actual school's website through that Google search, but they'll also do something. If I say colleges in Tennessee, they'll bring up that entire list and then let you kind of scroll through the different kind of quick points about each school so that you can see all the information that you want. Two other things that are going to be really important, I'll say later on in your high school career or your student's high school career, are the Common App and Common Black College App. These are both platforms where you can complete an application in order to go to a school. Something that a lot of our kind of early birds do is, in that process, you're going to have to write essays. In that process, you're going to have to answer questions. And you need to be prepared to talk about yourself. You need to be prepared to elaborate on certain things. And you need to know specifically who you are and know about the school so that you're able to do both of those things. With that said, you can always go ahead and create an account for both of those. Start looking at some of those schools and start looking at what you'll need to kind of go ahead and fill in, type in an answer so that you are prepared when it comes senior year when you start submitting those applications. And with that said, that brings our presentation to a close. Do I have any questions from anybody on the call or anything that y'all would like me to elaborate on?
No, awesome. Great job, guys. Daryl, Lee, thank you guys so much for being here this evening and presenting to our students and families. I think some of them had to jump off pretty early, but our plans are to post this to our YouTube channel, share it out social media, and you guys feel free to do the same on your social platforms or however you get the word out to your students as well. So the more students that can hear this important topic and understanding of all the different types of colleges that are available to them and align with their interests, I think the better. So we'll share this broadly with MNPS and all of our contacts as well. So cool. Thank you guys.
And JP, if I could say one thing in closing, there are any young people or families left on the call, please, you have so many resources in your building every day. Find your Gear Up coordinator, find your Gear Up friend in your building. If you don't have a Gear Up friend in your building, find the Oasis College Connection person. A lot of you have both a Gear Up person and a College Connection person. Spend as much time as you can with them. Take them on this journey with you. They're there to support you. They're there to help you do the tough things. They're there to celebrate the victories. And they're there to, walk you through every piece of this. So, my point is that you're not alone. The process starts now. And there are a lot of people that want to see you succeed in life and do all the wonderful things you want to do. All of us found someone that helped us get through. And some of us weren't as lucky enough to find them while we were in high school. So you have the most wonderful people in the business, the best people in the business. And all we want to do is hang out with you and talk about what you want to do and who you want to be and where you want to learn and where you want to study abroad and what you're dreaming of and all the things you want to accomplish. And when you get rich and famous, all the amazing things you want to buy for your family, your mom, your grandma, your dad. Like, we're here to celebrate and play a role in all of that. So please, 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 please find your Gear Up person, find your College Connection person, and let's hang out and be friends for the next 4 years.
Well said, Lee. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, Gear Up.
See you.
Have a good night. Thanks, Oasis.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.